Hello again, everyone. Edwin Leonard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about Mars transiting the 11th house in a natal chart. Now, on average, if your house size is average size at 30 degrees, Mars will traverse the house for approximately 2 months, but that is only if Mars is only in direct motion during that transit. However, if your house size is larger and or Mars is retrograde at any point during that transit, then Mars will be in the house for a longer period. Well, anyway, people, the first thing I'll look at is that during this time when Mars is transiting your 11th house, it could indicate that you might be a lot more assertive, a lot more aggressive in matters connected with friends, uh, maybe humanitarian endeavors, goals, your aspirations. Friends might see you maybe as a little bit more aggressive, maybe even a little bit more combative than usual. This could be a time where you need to be careful about maybe contentious, maybe situations with friends at this time. This could be a time where, with friends and acquaintances, they might if you're somebody that doesn't really show leadership qualities, you might be showing them now more, and you might be surprising them to some degree, and maybe you're showing more of a perhaps capability of being a leader in group related involvement. And this could be a time also, you look at the 11th house and it's connected with your goals and aspirations, and it could be a time where if you haven't set many goals in your life, you might be very more apt to set them right now. Mars can be about initiative and enterprise. And this could be a time where if you're somebody that, let's say, you don't have a lot of friends, you might be going out now and trying to make more so than usual. This could be a time where you're less egocentric and you're more there's more of a stronger emphasis on friends and doing things for the group rather than as opposed for yourself. Now, the 11th house is also associated with stepchildren, so it could indicate that and on the negative side, that there might be some situations that might be contentious with them if you do have any stepchildren, or you might find one or more of them to might be showing more leadership prowess and ability during this time. You might be seeing one or more of them maybe as more aggressive or more assertive than usual, and it might be a surprise to you, especially if that child is generally more of a passive and more of a submissive type personality. Well, this could also be a time where you might be putting a lot of your energy, which might, as far as friends go, might be inexorable. You might be putting a lot of energy in matters connected with them, doing things to help them out, doing things that are connected with things that are of a humanitarian nature, things that are selfless. That's about giving up, just doing what you can for a group. It can be also a period where you might be putting more emphasis on things that are new, that are eclectic, about maybe you're putting energy into things that are progressive, and you might have more of an interest now in things that are innovative, that are new. You might have a lot of you might have a number of ideas now that might be ingenious or innovative, and Mars can be about action. So it might be time where if you've been procrastinating on, say, you have had at least one or more ideas that you wanted to put into action, it might be a time where maybe you actually follow through on it and you might initiate it at this point in time more so than a lot of other transits. Now, this could also be a period with Mars transiting your 11th house. This could be at this point in time. You look at the 11th house, that you could be really about being more futuristic at this time, and you really want to be planning. It could be planning ahead and doing things and looking at things where really, you might be a little bit more at this point in time, not just progressive, but just very much into maybe things that are new, that are eclectic, that are about maybe just general new things. It might be a time where you're more open to those things than usual, because the 11th house does correspond with the zodiac sign Aquarius, and it could be a time too where you might be more into esoteric subjects, and maybe you're putting more energy into them perhaps than usual, or one or more esoteric subjects such as astrology and things that are unusual and that are different, that are unique. You might be expending more energy on than you would ordinarily. Well, anyway, people, it's also important to look at the sign that Mars is in for whether it's the majority or the whole time of the transit to your 11th house, as this could influence the transit, or flavor the transit, I should say. Let's say, for example, that Mars is in Sagittarius for either the majority or the whole time of the transit to your 11th house. Well, this could indicate a lot of exuberant and expansive and upbeat and optimistic energy during this time, and you could be very adventurous at this point in time. But it being in the 11th house, this energy might be injected into matters connected with your friends, your acquaintances, and perhaps group involvement activity, maybe organizations. Now, let's take another example. Let's say that Mars is in Capricorn for either the majority or the whole time of the transit to your 11th house. Well, this can indicate a lot of serious, responsible, disciplined type of energy. And being in the 11th house, it could be tied in perhaps to goals, to aspirations, and perhaps to group involvement and matters connected with friends and acquaintances, perhaps. Now, it's also important to look at the aspects that are made from this Mars transit to your 11th house, or I should say, the aspects that are made to your natal planets and points from this Mars transit to your 11th house, because this could impact the transit. Now, let's say, for example, that Mars transiting Mars in your 11th house is making a square, inconjunct, or opposition to your natal Mars. Well, this could indicate that this might be a period where it might not take an overabundance of provocation to make you angry necessarily. And given the fact that it's in the 11th house, this could come perhaps from friends or acquaintances or somebody you know in some group or organization you might be involved with. So it's important to be careful during this time, and not maybe to take certain things too personally, because you're more apt to respond a little bit more angrily than ordinarily. Now, let's take another example. Let's say that transiting Mars is making a conjunction to your natal Jupiter. Now, this could be an exceptionally audacious period for you, and you might have an abundance of energy, perhaps connected with sports and with publishing, and maybe even perhaps with maybe long journeys in some cases. Now, it could also be very fortuitous for things connected with leadership and maybe things associated with sports. Now, given that this is in the 11th house, this could be perhaps tied in perhaps to involvement with friends, with acquaintances, or in some kind of group activity or endeavor. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Mars transiting the 11th house in a natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about Mars transiting the 12th house in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.